This video will show you how to receive items in the Evergreen Pines acquisition system. To perform receiving and acquisitions, you will need a secondary permission level of ACREC, ACADMIN, or ACFIN. In your normal work in your Tech Services department, you're undoubtedly already marking items received. As items are physically received, the packing slip in the box is marked off that those items have arrived. Receiving in the acquisitions module is essentially the same thing. Receiving accurately in acquisitions is an important role. Marking an item received that has not come in can lead to errors in ordering, invoicing, and reporting. Unreceiving an item that is present can also lead to errors. You can receive items at several different levels. You can receive at the line item level or at the individual copy level. You can also receive items directly on the invoice. Generally, you can receive line items and copies that have a status of on order or have a cancel reason like back ordered or delayed. Let's look at receiving line items first. I'm not going to cover the different ways to search for your purchase order in this video. For more information about searching in acquisitions, please see the video Searching in Pines Acquisitions. Instead, I'm going to go directly to my first example purchase order. In this purchase order, you can see that all of my line items are currently colored pink and have a status of on order. These items are eligible to be received. In this case, let's assume that since this is a small order, all of our items arrive together. Some staff member, maybe you, has checked off that the items in the box are represented on the packing slip, and now we need to note that here in the ACK module. In this case, we only have one copy on each of these line items, and you can tell that here by one copy, or if you expand all, you can also see that there's only one copy. Receiving at the line item level is best when you either have one copy on the line item, such as here, or that all the copies on the line item are physically received at the same time, or have all been physically received by the time you're working in Evergreen. So in the case of this purchase order, we're going to receive all these line items at once. Right above the line items themselves, in the header bar on the far left, you can see this blue check mark. If you click this check mark once, you'll see that it selects all the ticky boxes next to all of the line items on this purchase order. So the action that we're going to take is going to affect all of them. So go to the Actions menu drop-down box and choose Mark Selected Line Items as Received. If your library uses line item alerts, an alert will pop up here. In this case, you can see we have an alert on this first title of Rush for a Program. So you just click OK. If your library does not use line item alerts, nothing will pop up there. After that, you'll see that the color of all of the line items has changed to gray, and you'll also notice that their status is now received. So let's look at a different situation. I'm going to go back to my purchase order search and choose a different purchase order. In this case, we've only received a few of the items in this purchase order, so we don't want to mark all of the line items received since we don't have these items in hand. Again, a reminder that receiving at the line item level, which is here, is best when you want to receive everything on that line item. So either there's one copy or you've received all of the copies on that line item. So let's say that we've received the copies on this line item, this one, and this one. And I'm going to leave the other ones unchecked. So the action will only affect these line items that I've checked. So we'll go back up to the Actions drop-down menu and choose Mark Selected Line Items as Received. And now you can see that only those line items have changed color to gray and been changed to received, and these other ones have stayed pink and on order. A more granular way to receive is to receive individual copies. This method will be best when you have multiple copies on a line item and they have different statuses. If you have multiple copies on one line item, but you'd like to receive all of them at once, it's much easier and preferable to receive them at the line item level, like we just went over. So let's look at a different purchase order where we can see this in action. So here, if we expand all, you can see that these two line items have a status of on order and that this one has 3 copies. You can see copies 3 here, and also you can see the 3 copies here. So let's drill down further into this line item so we can see the status of each of these copies. So here you can see we have our 3 copies, and this page will give more detail about each copy, including the state for each copy. So you can see that in this example, we have 1 copy that has a status of canceled and 2 that are still on order. And you can tell that they're on order because they have not been received yet. So in this example, we're saying that we've only received 1 copy. So I only want to receive one of these 2 available copies here. Depending on your size of your monitor, sometimes this runs off the side of the screen, so you may need to scroll to the side. Here over here, there is a blue hyperlink that says Mark Received. If you click this, the item will now be received, and now there will be an option to unreceive it, which we'll cover later. If we back out and then back in by clicking on this copies link, now you can see my name, or my login name, is here under the receiver for this item, and the copy has now been marked as received. Depending on your library's workflow, some libraries may choose to receive items from within an invoice instead of the purchase order. In this option, both individual copies and items in a batch can be received. So let's look at a purchase order that has an attached invoice. You can see that this purchase order is a little bit different than our other ones because there is an invoice attached to it. And you can tell because there's a button that says View Invoices and it has a number next to it. So if we click here, this will give the list of all the invoices that are associated with this purchase order. In this case, there's only one, so we're going to click here. A prerequisite for receiving from the invoice is that the invoice has been saved at least once since it was received. So for example, if this invoice was just received from EDI and it hasn't been accessed by someone with an ACADMIN or ACFIN permission, they will need to come in and save this invoice before any items can be marked received on it. Once the invoice has been saved, you can click this button that says Receive Items. This will open the screen where you can receive your items from the invoice. And again, you may need to scroll a little bit to see everything. You'll notice that it's a grayscale version that looks pretty similar to the line items, and it shows title, author, purchase order number, etc. And beneath the title, you can see 1 ordered, 0 received, 0 invoiced, etc. So under each title, you'll see the line that says number of copies to receive. So if you look at the line item and it says that you've ordered 1 copy, then you can also receive 1 copy. If you had ordered 2 copies, you could receive 2 copies, or you could receive just 1. So ensure that the number of copies to be received is correct on each line, and marking 0 for any copies that should not be received. Then click Received Selected Copies. If there were any line items that were unreceived, it will refresh the page, just as so, and show you the updated list of items that are still available to be received. If you're satisfied and you don't need to receive any other copies, you can click Return to Invoice. And now you can see for this title, we've ordered 1 and 1 has been received. Accidents and mistakes are inevitable. Clicking the wrong button happens. Luckily, Evergreen provides us a way to back out of marking something received. So let's briefly revisit each of our scenarios and unreceive these items. So let's go back to our first purchase order where we received all the items at once. Let's assume something like I had chosen the wrong purchase order and I needed to unreceive all of these line items. I would again click this blue check mark so that I can select all the line items at once and then go back to the Actions drop-down menu. This time we're going to choose Unreceive Selected Line Items. It will ask if I want to roll back receiving these items. I click OK. And now you can see all of the line items have changed back to their pink on order state. Let's check our second purchase order. In this case, we only received a few line items. So we're going to select only those line items that are marked as received. And in the same way, go to Actions, Unreceive Selected Line Items, and click OK for the confirmation. And now you can see all of our line items are back to the pink on order state. For unreceiving copies, it requires just a few more clicks. So let's revisit the September FIC purchase order. So let's click down into this line item, and you can see that we still have our 1 on order item, 1 that's been received, and 1 that's been canceled. So, and again, depending on your monitor, you may need to scroll to see these off to the right. And so you can see here, I'm the receiver on this particular copy, and the blue hyperlink that says unreceive. So if you click this, confirmation message, and if we back out and then back in, you can see that now my name has disappeared and the item is now back in its on order state. So to conclude, you have multiple ways to mark items as received in acquisitions. Which method you choose depends on the items you're receiving and your library's workflow. Thank you for watching, and for more information, please see the Pines Acquisitions Wiki at pines.georgialibraries.org/documentation.